But Ty, you mentioned inconsistency and everything like that, and talent wise. Like, let's talk about Trae Young. Do you think players or not players? Do you think fans don't appreciate his game as much as they should because he's inconsistent and inefficient, or do you just think that I don't know? Is it Atlanta? Like, is it him? Has he really gotten better since his probably second or third year? Like, is he
Yeah.
gotten really that much better, or like what do you think? What do you think the criticism? Like, what do you think the problem with the criticism about Trae Young is?
I don't think there's a problem with any criticism. So this is birthing off of him, coming off of him not being selected to Team USA.
Which is stupid.
Yeah, which I think is stupid. But then there's a whole social media thing right now about Trae Young being an underrated player. I think Trae Young's rated right where he needs to be. So if you look at him statistically, he's great, right? 28-10, 25-10 his whole career. He does have a dominant playoff moment at this young age. I think his playoff moment, I mean, Luka's gotten deeper. No, him and Luka have been
They both been pretty much to the same.
They've both been to conference finals, right? And then I think Trae Young has a more iconic playoff moment than Luka. He does that. Luka doesn't have an MSG moment. Trae Young's MSG moment was off the chain.
I just find it funny how people always, oh, the Hawks lost the trade, or the Hawks got the show.
Oh, this is a Hawks fan. I forgot, Ty. This is a Hawks
fan. Here's the butt on Trae Young, though, because
they've literally been to when you talk about team-wise success. I'd argue that the Hawks have been more successful than Dallas.
I say no to
that. I would.
I say no to that because everybody talks about, even you have said, Blake, that Eastern Conference Finals thing is looking like a fluke.
I take that back because I take that back.
It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a fluke. They got there, but they didn't show up after that. And that's why every Trae Young criticism is legit. How come your team gets to the conference finals next season? What is it? They're a playing team.
I blame it on coaching.
But he averaged 15 points a game that season to get that series against the Heat.
It was a play. It was after they made the Eastern Conference Finals, it was another season after that. It was a playing team twice, weren't they?
They were playing team, even if they were. I forgot how they got in, but they got in and they got first rounded by Miami.
Yeah, no, you should not. You make the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm sorry. To me, that looks like a fluke. I don't know what y'all call it. You cannot barely sneak in the next 2 years. That doesn't make.
I call it bad coaching. And honestly, that's just.
I've seen worse. I've seen worse coaching.
They should have been better than what they've been the last couple of years. Because then, what do you say about last season, where they get to the playoff, but they get swept in the first round? Like last season, there's DeJounte Murray there, so there's another guard to hide Trae Young's. But this is why Trae Young isn't going to get rated as a top 5 guard in the NBA, is because he's probably the worst defensive point guard in the NBA. Point blank, period. It's been that way for a very long time. And you get another point guard there who's arguably the best all-star point guard defender in the NBA with DeJounte Murray, and they still are a playing team.
He didn't have
that was the first year. You gotta mesh things together.
No, but did he really? Did DeJounte Murray? You can correct me if I'm wrong. Did he really have a great season?
He was okay, no, but I'm
he
saying
had a season up to his standards. It wasn't nothing special.
No, I'm just saying because I'm just saying how the Atlanta Hawks as a whole didn't meet any of our expectations because we think of DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. That's at least a 5, 4, 5.
I mean,
they were Cleveland was. We thought the Hawks were at least going to be.
And that's my issue with them.
Cleveland defensively is about 5 times better than what we are.
But that's my issue with the Hawks is they should be on the same level as a Cleveland. That's my whole thing is. They should be better than what they are. They should. They're talent-wise.
I think Cleveland is a bit more talented than us.
Yeah, I can't. Not really.
Honestly, I do.
Compared to Ross, I'm telling you,
I always get them two confused: front court and back court. Which one is back court or front court?
Their front court's probably better. Their front court's better.
Yeah,
front court is forwards and
I think Cleveland's front court is.
But they're not. They're both in the same tier from a talent perspective. I think they're both tier B from a talent perspective. They're both tier 2 teams. The Hawks. That's Trae Young. That's Trae Young. DeJounte Murray. That's 2 all-star guards.
We're on par.
John Collins.
We're on par with them guard. Well, dude, they got their front court defensively. There is much better than ours. John Collins, DeAndre Hunter was hurt almost the whole year.
That's true.
He wasn't doing a lick of nothing. John Collins wasn't doing nothing. Clint Capella, it was painful watching him. I hated watching him play. So
you loved him watching him play when he made the East Conference Final.
I did, and then these last 2 years, I've been praying that he gets traded somewhere.
Trae Young Trae Young's rated where he needs to be rated at. Yeah, I don't think it's not because he's a bad player, but people notice if you're not playing defense, and people are going to look at your offensive numbers and they're going to be like, oh yeah, he's doing this, but he's not playing defense. That's the way things are going to go. Right now, Luka was able to hide the last couple of years. He's not a great defender. He got better, but that defensive thing is always going to catch up. And if you're a point guard putting up crazy offensive numbers, if you don't play defense and your team hasn't done anything since 2021, they're going to look at you. I think every Trae Young criticism is legit.
Yeah.
He should have made Team USA, and his offensive numbers are great. But then there's some other stuff like he's a very predictable offensive player relatively.
Step back.
Pick and roll, like he plays that same brand of basketball that we've seen get kicked out of the playoffs every single year. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
So I think every Trae Young criticism is legit at this point. I'm
just thinking. I mean to cut you off. Isn't that weird? The Hawks made the Eastern Conference Finals a couple seasons ago. Really struggled to make the playoffs and everything like that. The Mavericks made the Western Conference Finals. What was that last year? Not last season, but like 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made it 2 seasons ago. They didn't make the playoffs, and they have Kyrie. They have a lot of similarities.
Well, that Dallas team is horribly built. After that Kyrie trade, that team is horribly built now. Right now, well, I wouldn't say right now, but last year that team.
They still should at least make the playoffs. They were good enough to do that at least. That's the crazy thing. But Trae Young he's rated right. I never really thought that. I'm not saying I thought low of Trae Young, but I've never really thought like Todd. I never really thought he was a top 3. Might be right at 5 or 6 top point guard, but I never thought he was like one of the top point guards in the league. I haven't. He's good.
Yeah. Statistically, you look at him, he is, but some of those other things, it's just not. It's just, and like I said, if I look at you're the best player on a team that hasn't done anything since getting to the conference finals, I'm looking at you. And I'm like, yo, what's going on? His numbers are great. He's 28-10. He's almost at 30-10 seasons. That's great. But we notice you're not playing defense and you're the worst point guard defender in the NBA, at least from starting point guard perspective. Your team does have talent, right? Like if you can get to the conference finals pretty much with that same core, I don't see why you can't get back to it. DeAndre Hunter could have been out the whole season. They still have DeJounte Murray, who was an all-star the year before. Yeah.
The thing is though too, like he's putting up 30 and 10, and they're barely making the playoffs. So it's just like, are those winning stats too? Like if you talk about looking at stats, those win. Is such thing as winning stats now? Like I don't know.
And we'll see because we did see them make that coaching change in the middle of the season. So now they got Quinn Snyder. So we'll really see what an off season can do for them because there were a lot of issues with Nate McMillan or whatever the case may be. But the Hawks shot themselves in the foot.
That Nate McMillan thing kind of bothered me because when he took over and then when he went to East Conference Finals, they loved him then.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They shot themselves in the foot. They should be better than what they are. I saw Gilbert Arenas talking about it. I didn't think it was right. First of all, he said Team USA is garbage. They're not a garbage roster at all.
Yeah. It's just people say that because they're not. It's just not the. I'll say that
we're used to.
It's not the names that they're used to. It's a very talented team.
Yeah,
it just don't have those big names.
Let's just wait for the what is it, Tokyo? Let's wait for the Tokyo team.
Yeah, wait till
that's the real deal. That's when the
we'll see what happens. But I think Trae Young's rated right where he needs to be rated at. I don't think that I think for him is going to be at least DeJounte Murray's got to hide his because that's the whole thing about getting him is you're never going to be able to. I watched a video on this. You're never going to be able to turn a player. You're not going to. Nikola Jokic didn't get that much better defensively. The Nuggets just found a really good way to hide him defensively because I never thought he was an elite defender.
No, but I caught heat there one time. I was like, nobody's scared of him on the defensive end because I was making a point of nobody goes into a game saying we got a game plan for Nikola Jokic defense. He's not like the worst I've ever seen on defense, but nobody goes the game plan. That game plan for his offense, obviously, not his defense.
Carl, you still think that
no, that finals was legit. I was just talking about the role players. Them niggas going stupid.
but the thing with Trae Young is you have to you got to try to find ways to hide him. He's never going to be an elite defensive player. So they're going to the effort thing about him defensively is okay, he's not good. So let's try to hide him defensively. The Warriors do it with Curry. The Nuggets do it with Nikola Jokic a lot. If you have a great player, a player who's so dominant offensively, you got to be able to hide him on defense. Trae Young is just noticeably bad on the defensive end in a very skilled position. So that's what it's going to come down to for him. But I think
they hide. Figure that out. They hide Curry, but Curry's still a stronger and better defender than Trae is.
Yeah.
Because if you saw, I don't want to make jokes, but if you saw the type of food Trae be eating, it's wonder he ain't strong.
If Trae was, and I'd say most of the defense just comes down.
He's just too little.
I know, but most of it just come down to effort. I feel like it's half and half between effort and just like.
Oh yeah, defense is half effort, half skill, because a lot of the players that are just decent and okay at defense, they literally just have half effort. They just don't have the athleticism to keep up. But
I feel like if he really wanted to, he could at least be all right.
I think you need to get stronger. I think that's his issue, to be honest with you. Because I don't want to make, like I said, I made a joke, but I saw like the type of food he eats. It was like 5 chicken nuggets, 1 small ass apple, and a little juice. I'm like, dude, you about 30, you like 25, damn near 30 years old, eating like a kid. But
if that's what he want to do, that works.
I mean, if I ain't saying what he ate wasn't good, but I'm just saying you probably need more food.
You just said it wasn't good.
But yeah. Trae rated right where he need to be, in the middle, right there. Not in the middle, but good. He's good. He's not great.
He's a 30 and 10, a 25 and 10 player who's not a top 5 player at his position, arguably. I mean, is he a top 5 point guard right now?
Because it's not winning stats. If he was winning the average 30 and 10, that's the difference between, like, I'll compare it, even though these are two different type of players. Bradley Beal, he was putting up 30 points or whatever the case may be, but it was revered by everybody in the league, revered by you, but it was still actually the questions like, can he do this on a winning team? Like, is that winning stats? Like, how far can he really get scoring that many points?
Here's a difference. So Trae's comes out of a very predictable system. So your question is, Trae's system is designed for him to get those 30 again. Like Beal's a guy who he was 30 game because he really didn't have any other great play. Well, he had Russell Westbrook there. Trae's 30 and 10. They're good. They're not. It's not because he can't do it all. Like everything we see from him is real. Those are legit numbers he's putting up against real NBA defenders. Can't stop it. But it's not winning because he can't match it with defense. That's my thing. That's my whole that Trae Young, I'd have no problem with him if he played some level of defense. You know what I'm saying? That's what if he played some level of. He's literally the worst defensive point guard in the game right now. So anything you do offensively, the way the NBA criticizes players now, if you're not doing anything on the defensive end, then fuck what you're doing on offense almost. Pretty much. Like, that's kind of how things are look. I hate it, but that's how things are look. Like, is there a guy right now, James Harden took that flack for a minute. They was dogging James Harden for years.
James Harden just wasn't trying.
Yeah, Luka took that flack. Luka's okay. He made strides. He got better. But Luka took that flack for a minute. Like, you're not getting away with not playing defense today. So that's my issue isn't with Trae Young. I think they need to run more stuff offensively outside of what they're already doing. And we're going to see more under Quinn Snyder's system. But my biggest problem with him is, like, bro, for one, you guys have been whacked since y'all made the conference finals. And 2, defensively, you're the worst point guard in the NBA. Defensively, relatively, you're still a superstar player.
You need to get stronger.
Yeah, that's what it's going to come down to. And there are going to be point guards who I feel like over the next couple of years, if he doesn't figure it out, are going to jump above him. Like, I don't think – do we revere De'Aaron Fox as a better point guard right now than Trae Young?
No.
I'll put him over him.
I would.
I'll put him over him.
But should it – so, Carl, you do. Should it be that way?
No, it shouldn't. But I would definitely put.
That's what I'm saying. Guys,
Carl's is doing that because we know I'm a Hawks fan. So.
No, I'm not. Trust me, I'm not.
Because I see
who would
y'all know since he was at Oklahoma, I was always iffy on Trae Young.
No, you was. That's the thing, and I was high on him. So that's I'm still kind of high on, but it just depends. Like we was talking, like De'Aaron Fox he's a stud now. Don't do him like that.
Yeah.
He took the Warriors to 7 games when I told Ty, I said they got a chance. He ain't believe me. And look what, so it's not crazy to say De'Aaron Fox is better than Trae Young. I think he is.
Yeah.